Hey YouTube, uh, happy December. How is everybody's Saturday going? The one topic that I was thinking about talking about today is that I had an experience this week with my 110 gallon. Hey Pam, welcome to the stream. You are first. You are the one and onlyest, Pam. Um, can you give me a sound check, please, ma'am? Hey, Alien World. Did you decide um, what time you're going to do your stream? And I must admit I didn't see if you did it before me. Thank you, Pam. The one topic that I thought about. Hey, Big J's Fish Keeper. Welcome to the stream. Going live at 4 p.m. Eastern. Well, if you'll notice, Mark's Shrimp Tanks has been going on for a while and still going on. So Mark lives in Norway, so his time is probably his the time of day for him is probably a lot different than it is for me. I'm guessing 4 hours difference. So I can understand if he needs to, go live, but I used to start at 4 and then he starting at 4. So I dropped back to 3 and he starting at 3. And then I dropped back to 2:45 and now it seems like he's starting at 2. So I don't know. I like Shrimps a lot. Mark's a good guy. It's just kind of weird for me not to be able to get him to run over top of me, but I guess he'll figure that out on his own. Anyway, I thought the one thing that I did kind of find interesting in my own fish room this week was I haven't done any kind of videos on it, but I did lose my large male Teleocicla about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I couldn't really tell what got him. I can't. Usually anymore, I feel like what gets my fish is that I fed them something that was too large for their gullet and they ate it, and or old age. I rarely lose fish to disease, and I say that, and it happens. Um, you know, I can't tell you what killed him. He was so messed up by the time I found him in there that I couldn't really see from the outside. But anyway, I assumed that whatever got him got the little female too. And I hadn't seen her in like 3 weeks, so I just assumed she was a goner too. Whatever got him got her too. And the male was like 6 inches, 5.5 inches. Hey, Fish Tropic, welcome to the stream, man. Um, the male, like I said, was about 6 inches. And for those of you that are not aware, teleociclas are there is one in Africa. There's one species, I think it's only one, that's in Africa, but mostly they're South American. And they are a cichlid species. They're They're glommed in with all the cichlids, but they look more like a rope fish than a cichlid. They're not that huge. Some of them get pretty big, like maybe a foot, but most of them stay in the 6 to 10 inch range. And these teleogrammas are right around the 6 inch range for a full grown male. And they look like little mud skippers or little rope fish or little, they're a fascinating species. And I got them because they are a natural predator. Now the teleogrammas come from the Xingu River, not the river that my L260s come from, but they are close enough to what is in the Tapajos River, which is where the L260s come from, and that 110-gallon tank is basically a breeding setup for those L260s. I've got a lot of lemon tetras in there. I've got reed tetras in there. And I've got pencil fish in there. But all of the dither fish that I put in so that they would scatter eggs and the L260s could eat them. And these Teleocyclas monogram. Hey, Fish Room Fever, welcome to the stream. These Teleocyclas are a natural predator. You know, they're not a huge predator, but they would like eat tiny baby plecos, however you choose to say that word. I've always said plecos, so I think I'm just going to stay with it. And plecos, lorcards, L260s, they hole up in caves, and I've seen them in the wild when we were in Peru. The water was low in the river near Felix's parents' house and Felix's house too. He took us to a river by his family's property, and we went across and they went up a stream. I got stuck in the mud. I was just exhausted. Well, partly I was exhausted because we got the boat stuck on a sandbar in the middle of the river and had to push it off. So what little energy I had was pretty well expended by the time we got over to the other side, and I got stuck in the mud. I was setting my camera gear up to carry with me, and I got stuck in the mud trying to cross the little creek that everybody was going up. And by the time I got out of that mud, I was exhausted. It was like my legs were shaking, and I thought, and I'm going to keep going, walking in this mud, because I yelled ahead, and they all said it was muddy as all get out. And I had been stuck in the mud already up to my knee, and getting my leg back out again. Anyway, when we were coming back from that creek, it started pouring rain on us. I'm sure many of you have seen that video. Of all of us on the boat in the pouring rain. I mean, it was pelting us. It wiped out my pack of cigarettes inside of a plastic bag in my pocket. It took out Michael's phone in his waterproof hat. He kept his phone in his hat, and it took out his phone. He lost his Apple phone. As we were coming back, the water was kind of low in that river, and I forget the name of that river. I'm not sure I ever knew it. Corey or Dean might know it, or maybe Joseph, but as we were coming back upriver, we could see the holes in the wall of the riverbank, and they were about pleco-sized holes. So plecos must channel out those holes in the walls, and that's where they hole up to breed. And part of what they're doing, hey Cody's son, welcome to the stream. Part of what they're doing, the male plecos have odontals, which are those spiky looking things on their nose. And part of what they do is the male can defend that little cave with those odontals. He can turn, the cave isn't much bigger than he is, but he can turn around in it and stick his nose towards the opening, and he presents a mass of spikes towards whatever's trying to get into the cave and get the eggs or the babies. So the male does two things in the cave. One, he holds the female deeper in the cave so that they can breed. Then when the eggs are laid, the male will, he sits in the opening of the cave and fans water. Hey, BB23. He sits in the opening of the cave and fans with his pec fins and his tail fin to keep fresh water flowing over those eggs, to keep them from becoming fungus or, and he defends them. And when they hatch, he will defend the babies for the fry for a certain amount of time. So I wasn't getting any breeding behavior out of my L260s, or what I felt like. I got one batch of eggs, and I just felt like they weren't. I run that tank at about 80 degrees, and a lot of people have told me to run it up to 82 degrees. And I just feel like running it at 82 degrees is burning, higher than 82, is burning the life cycle of the fish. These fish only live so long, and the hotter the water is, the faster their metabolism is, and the faster you burn up their life cycle. So a fish that might live 4 years at 80 degrees might live 3 years at 82 degrees. And there is probably scientific evidence out there to discount what I'm saying, but it's just a personal feeling that I've gotten from all the years that I've kept fish. I've kept Jack Dempsey's at high temperatures, and I've kept them at lower temperatures, and I always feel like my fish do better when they're in slightly cooler water than what they normally live in. And so I was casting around, and I say better, I mean live longer. And I was casting around trying to think of a way to get these fish to produce the odontals, because the males in my tank just really haven't produced odontals. And I felt like that was something to do with breeding. Some people have told me it was something to do with the temperature, that 80 degrees isn't warm enough for them to make odontals. And while that may be true, I just felt like that if I put some natural predators in that tank and they were trying to breed, then maybe that would cause the male plecos to produce odontals, because they needed to protect those babies in the caves or in the holy rock, wherever they decide to try to breed, that they would need those odontals, and maybe predators are being around would cause them to do that. And so far I haven't noticed it. I haven't. No, I mean, I rarely see my L260s. Every once in a while, I see one in one of my clay caves that I made, but most of the time I don't see them at all. And so that was why I went ahead and bought the Teleocyclus. Besides the fact that they're neat looking fish and I wanted them, and Eric Bodrock had some. Um, I just wanted to see what would happen if I put natural predators. I mean, I'm trying to create a biotope with this tank. You know, I'm not going total biotope because I don't have the plants from that location. BB23 says he's bored of plecos. He wants to keep Amazon swords so the plecos hinder that. Yeah, I can see that. And VB says I got shrimp today. 10 of them I'm keeping in a large marina box temporarily filled with Java moss, some wasser tang, 2 cholla wood, and 3 oak leaves. 5 gallons is a small space-wise, but oh well. Yeah, I don't think you should have problems with 10 shrimp in a 5 gallon. Um, you know, they will get out of control if they start breeding at some point, but you could probably keep 50 or 60 in that 5 gallon tank. Shrimp don't put a lot of stress on the environment around them. They don't breathe out a lot of waste. They don't poop out a lot of waste. Everything's so small with them that they don't really stress it. I mean, I think there are times when you can completely skip water changes with shrimp, and my advice would be to dial back your water changes, especially with just 10 of them. I mean, once your tank gets set, you know, get some algae, some brown algae and some green algae going, and once that tank is set, and like you've got Java moss and subwasser tang, they'll love that. Um, I've only got mosses. I think I've got one Anubis in the tank, and I've just got mosses and subwasser tang in mine, and they have completely taken over the tank. The tank is full of mosses and subwasser tang now. There's little room for the shrimp, and I assume that that water quality is excellent all of the time because of how much plant load there is in that tank. Um, every time I check it, it's fine. Now, I had mine in a 20 gallon, and these are neocaridinias. And I had mine in a 20 high. That's what I've got for, oh, 0.5 gallon. Yeah, 0.5 gallon's going to be a lot harder to deal with. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. But 0.5 of half a gallon is going to go bad on you a lot quicker. And, you know, I had never kept shrimp before, but it is a breeder box. Oh, okay. Yeah. I would definitely get them into their own tank. Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. So it's a breeder box and you've got the water running in and out. Well, I'm going to tell you something about shrimp. They climb. So they climb really well. And they can't wait to climb out of whatever they're in. So I would definitely either put some sort of lid on it or remove any kind of hose that goes out of it. Because if there's a hose they can climb up, they're going to do it. I mean, it may take them a little while to figure out where they're at, but they're going to come out of there. And they'll die if they get up on the top rim of the tank and walk around and dry out, they'll die. The breeder box have lids. Okay, well, that'll slow them down. Anyway, what the point of all this rambling was that I had lost that male Teleocycla monogramma, and I had assumed that the female died as well, although I couldn't find her. Now there's probably 100 assassin snails in that tank now. I put like 6 assassin snails in it when I set it up to keep regular snails from overrunning it. And of course, what I've got is assassin snails overrunning it. And they need to eat a lot, so I feed the tank heavyish. So they also help clean up the tank, and they keep the sand stirred up. I like that about assassin snails. They'll burrow into the sand, and I had just assumed that the female died. Well, last night I went in there to feed them, and sure enough, there she was out in front. And I hadn't seen her in 3 weeks and no idea where she was. You know, thought she was dead because I hadn't seen her in so long. And there are a lot of fish that are like that. If you get some of the ninja cats, the wood cats, you may go 6 months without seeing that fish. It will probably come out when the tank is completely dark, and you just won't ever see it. You know, a lot of people hate catfish and plecos because of that reason, because they're so furtive. They stay hidden all the time. Although I've seen plenty of people on YouTube whose plecos are just perfectly fine with being out all the time, you know. But most plecos and catfish of the smaller variety stay hidden all the time. Now that Teleocycla monogramma male, he was out front all the time. That tank was his. I originally got 6 of them, and I figured out that I had 3 males and 2 females. Not very, you know, maybe 6 months in, I knew that I had 3 males and or 4 males and 2 females. And then the dominant male started killing off the other males, and there was very little I could do. That tank is so, it's a rock wall. It's basically what it is, with pleco caves in it. And there's a small amount of space in the back, and the fish go across the front and across the back. And then I've got a really large piece of log in there that's like a hollowed out log, and then a bunch of pieces of Texas Holy Rock on the other end. And I couldn't catch them. Like if I wanted to pull the other 3 males out, I couldn't catch them. They would not allow me to catch them because they were into the rock wall before I could do anything. But that larger male was catching them and killing them, because I'd go in there and I'd find one laying dead. And I'd pull it out, and then a couple of weeks later, I'd find another male laying dead. And so one male dominated the tank. And for a long time, I had 1 male and 2 females, a larger female and a smaller female. And then I found the larger female dead. So he had killed her as well. Now, the smaller female is like 2.5 inches or 3 inches long. The larger female was like 3.5 or 4 inches long. And I cannot imagine that that smaller female killed a male 3 times her size. I suppose it's possible, but I don't know what got the male. I just don't have any idea. But I assumed whatever got him got the female too. And yet, the other day, after about, it has to have been a month since I've seen her, or maybe 6 weeks. I go in there and there she is. Yes, Alien World Aquatics will be streaming at 4 Eastern Time. So in another hour, you guys should try to catch Alien World. And thanks for stopping by, man. And thanks for talking to me about it. I really appreciate that you would think enough to ask someone else what time they're running so that you don't walk over top of them. I mean, I think that etiquette is important in our YouTube world. I think it's important that we look out for each other. I mean, we're fish fam, and family doesn't usually purposely walk all over each other. So I think it's nice. I think it's commendable when we as family members try to be family members instead of try to be bullies or try to walk on top of each other or try to stab each other in the back, you know. I mean, and I know it's not that. It's not usually stabbing in the back. Usually what it is time schedules. And sometimes time schedules just conflict. And sometimes you don't watch someone's videos, so you don't know that they're on at that time, you know. So there's a lot of reasons why someone could walk on each other's toes. But I find it nice when we try to play well together. So that was my topic for today, was the idea that there are fish that you may have in your tank, or that you know are in there, or at least you think you know. You know, they could be dead and you've just never found the body. But sometimes fish will go a very long time without showing their face, without you ever seeing them, you know. And with some species, like the wood cats or the ninja cats, you know, those are little 6-inch, 4-inch catfish that you just rarely ever see. They will just stay hidden out almost the entire time that they live in your tank. You just never see them. Every once in a while, if they're really hungry, they'll come out for food when you drop it in there, but usually they'll wait till dark before they come out and look to eat. And plecos and a lot of the lure cards are the same way. I was watching some video of, I think it was the Xingu, just the other day. Someone's come out with new underwater footage from the rivers where a bunch of plecos live. I think it was the, what was it? L111s or something. I can't remember right now what the numbers of the plecos were, but they had like 7 or 8 different species, and so I'm thinking it's the Xingu. And it was just sandy bottom, heavy current, a lot of particulate up in the water. Of course, some of that may be, hey, Susan, welcome to the stream. Thank you for stopping by to show love and support. I'm, I've been talking about Fish Fam, so I think it's appropriate that the Fish Fam mom would stop by and show love and support. Um, anyway, the underwater scenes from that river, those fish stay in crevices or under rocks or hid out in pieces of wood. If you've watched Freshwater Aquatics, they're doing a lot of streaming from the rivers in South America, the Xingu and several of those other rivers where the plecos that they sell come from, and a lot of those collectors just go out and find large pieces of wood and pick it up and then use a pair of pliers and pull the plecos or the catfish out of the wood. They're tunneled into the wood. So sometimes they have to break the wood apart to get to them. But a lot of our fish stay hidden out all the time. And we don't really know sometimes how many fish there are in there. They may have had babies and we just never have seen them, because if our tanks are heavily decorated enough or heavily planted enough, we don't really know what's in there. You know, you're just guessing. So I'm not sure really what my point is here. Just that I found it curious that we as fish keepers keep species that are so reluctant to come out and show themselves, that when they do show themselves, we're surprised by it. Or if they've disappeared for a long period of time and suddenly they show themselves again, we're surprised by it. You know, I was really happy. I was really happy to see that little Teleocycla monogramma, because I know that she's still in there now. I know that she's still alive. I know I need to throw some food particles in there for her specifically. You know, usually I vary my feeding with flake, frozen, freeze-dried bloodworms, frozen Daphnia. But I'll throw in some meatier pellet type food if I know there's something in there big enough to eat it. You know, I like I said, I was concerned that maybe my male got, yeah, like coolie loaches. Coolie loaches are another one that will just stay hidden all the time sometimes. But I just found it curious that my reaction was so much joy at a little tiny 2.5-inch fish suddenly appearing after not having seen her for 6 weeks or more, and having already found the male dead maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. I just really had assumed that the little female had also perished from whatever got him. Cody's son has 25 plus coolies, never sees them, maybe once a month, love them though. Fish Room Fever says, I've heard of these coolie loaches. I even own some, never have seen one. Yep, that's basically how they are. And yet, they're a great fish to keep. When you do see them, you got to get as much value out of that face to face time as you can. But I mean, that's what fish keeping is. Susan, I've been at this fish keeping game so long. Uh, uh, Losses bother me. They bother me in the sense of I lost so much money. They bother me in the sense of I've made some mistake. If I can indeed prove that it wasn't old age that killed them, because that's what gets most of my fish. A lot of these fish only live for 2 or 3 years. So a lot of my fish die for old age. Um, but, like I lost all those Fish Room Fever. I do stream every week. I've kind of gotten away from doing my videos, and I basically just live stream. I, I would admonish any of you that are new to my channel to go back through my videos, because there's several years of videos there, and it's rare that I come up with something new to video. It's hard to come up with a new topic to video about. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't new topics. It just means that my poor old brain has fizzled out as far as thinking up new ideas. When something new hits me, when I try to do something new, then I'll probably put out another video. But it's a lot of work coming up with new ideas. So what I've been doing here lately is streaming. This has been going on for, 6 months, 8 months. I've just been streaming. And I know that probably hurts my viewership. Yep, you got it from the horse's mouth. I always stream. Occasionally something will come up. Occasionally I wake up on Friday morning and my old brain thinks it's Saturday, and I'll stream on Friday instead of Saturday by mistake. So occasionally I goof up, but usually if I'm home, I'll try to do my video stream. I'm not saying that it will never get to the point. I mean, if I'm really sick, if I wake up on Saturday morning and I'm deathly ill, then I'm probably not going to stream. But knock on wood, I pretty much stream every Saturday at 2:45 Eastern, unless I oversleep or take a nap and oversleep, or the wife has something she wants me to do. I sit at my computer way too much, and my wife regrets that and wants me out and about sometimes. So there are occasions where my wife supersedes my desire to stream, but usually she will acquiesce and let me do my videos. I've been having problems with my camera. It was a used camera when I bought it, so I've been fighting my camera, trying to even just take pictures, really. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to. Fish Room Fever says it's going to put me up on the site lineup 2:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if that's okay with you. Yeah, that's fine. I'm here. I'll be here all week. Um, Content is the most difficult thing for a YouTuber to provide. Ooh, I'm doing a lot of buffering, aren't I? That's interesting. I don't usually buffer. Okay, we're getting. No data, no active stream. Are you still with me? It looks like I'm still live. I'm still here. Yay! my my stream health says my stream is dead. And I'm getting orange bars. Oh well. The heck with them. The heck with what they're telling me. All right, guys, we're winding up around the top of the hour again. If someone has a topic that they'd like to broach, I'm not sure I covered the shrimp keeping topic well enough. I mean, I'll rant and rave about shrimp for quite a while. My 20 gallon high that I got a Skittles pack from Lucas. Geez, year and a half ago now. At least a year and a half ago. I got the Skittle pack, which was what, 12? Maybe it was 20. I can't remember. And I had over 200 in there. I know at one point, maybe 250, maybe 300, and they were doing just fine. And then all of a sudden, I saw no change in water parameters, no change in temperature that I was aware of, no change in feeding, no change in plant growth, no change in anything that I could tell. All of a sudden, they all died. I don't know what it was. I don't know. You know, I keep hearing about colony collapse, and one day I went in there and there was no shrimp to be seen. Now there were still shrimp in there. There's still shrimp in that tank, but they're very few. And now it's just an overgrown moss holder. There is moss and subwassertang growing all the way up the sides to the top of a 20 high. And that's what, 29 gallons of water? That's a lot of moss. And I must have bought 6 different kinds of moss. Hey, Big E's, welcome to the stream, man. Um, I must have bought 6 different kinds. Have a good day, Fish Room Fever. Um, of moss. I searched the internet high and low and aquabid and everywhere for all kinds of different moss. I got the small and the large Christmas moss. I got Fizzdin's moss from Lucas. Everything but Java moss. My experience with Java moss has not been great. It gets so stringy after a while. Um, I had all kinds of different moss. I got subwasser tank from Mark Shrimp Tanks, and and that tank is just completely overgrown. There's some wood in there. There's a bunch of rocks, lava rocks in there, and there is a bunch of coral in there, old old school dried coral. And I put that coral in there because I wanted it to help buffer the water, help buffer the hardness of the water, and shrimp need hardness in their water so that they can absorb the calcium and make new shells when they molt. And I say shells, skins is more like it. But I was mystified by that. And I don't know what causes colony collapse. I don't know if the shrimp themselves. I was getting ready to start trying to cull them out, to get a bunch of them out and put them in tanks where I thought the fish would eat them, you know, because most fish will try to eat shrimp. They see shrimp as a food source, not as a fellow denizen of a tank. And just about the time I got ready to start trying to net some out of there, with a bunch of rock work and a bunch of plants, moss, and a bunch of magnolia leaves. I always keep magnolia leaves in there for them to feed on. And a bunch of coral and two great big sponge filters and one of those little 75-degree heaters and wood. It's kind of hard to get shrimp out of a tank like that. I always do that. I always set up tanks where it's really difficult to get the fish or the shrimp or the snails back out of, it's just how I like my tanks to be. I've just never really enjoyed a bare bottom tank with nothing in it. I don't feel like that's a very natural way for my fish to live, and I've just really always tried to avoid it. So eventually, no matter how hard I try, all of my tanks, even my quarantine tank, is full of plants and has gravel on the bottom and a piece of wood in it, and it's just those are habits that are hard to break. I'll go to a pet store and I'll see a piece of wood and I'll think, man, that'll fit right in that tank, and before I know it, I've bought it and brought it home and stuck it in a tank. Plus, I've been keeping fish for so long that I have a lot of wood and I have a lot of rocks and I have a lot of tank-like decorations that are usable for tanks. All right, guys. I think I'm going to wrap it up early. I think my wife's getting ready to come home and she's not feeling very well. There she is. Hey, doll. How did it go?
How's it going?
Yeah.
I still don't have my medicine.
You're still waiting on CVS? I'm live here.
Huh?
I'm live here.
Oh.
So don't cuss anybody.
Hello, everyone. No, the snarl that is my insurance company won't let me have it without prior authorization. This is a different one. So.
All right. I love you guys, but it's lunchtime. Have a good weekend. I hope your fish keeping goes well. Spend some time checking out the other people in this chat. Uh, Check out their videos and their sites. And good luck. Sorry, but lunch outweighs you guys. Bye.